People are doing cleanups all around the world. It's about connecting the dots to make those volunteers who are doing the vital work in their community, to make them feel like they are a part of a global movement. The Great Global Cleanup Campaign is a worldwide movement to rid the environment of waste and plastic pollution for good. And we do that through mobilizing a lot of local partners all across the world to do community cleanups.
What draws me to the Great Global Cleanup and EarthDay.org is how much of a sense of community it is, because we're all involved in this and we truly all care.
In time when I'm swimming my 30-mile Guinness World Record, we will have the biggest cleanup happening here in Biscayne Bay.
Without these volunteer cleanups, we would be even more so than we are now drowning in the amount of plastic that is out in the environment.
People often think that they have to be close to a beach to make a difference for the ocean, but all trash will eventually lead to oceans. I always say that it's streets to creeks to rivers to oceans, and that's how trash will eventually lead out. So I think it's important that we clean up in our communities so we can stop that.
The coolest thing is seeing how younger generation is becoming so aware. It's so smart, and the younger generation even kind of develops the new products, the new technologies, the new movements. And as an ocean ambassador, as a World Cleanup Day ambassador and Earth Day ambassador, that's the coolest thing to see how the world is evolving and learning about that we can coexist with the Earth.
Imagine the impact we would have if every single person picked up a single piece of trash. Not only are cleanups good for the environment, they're also good for the soul. So grab your friends, family, and coworkers and join us this year to create a waste-free world, Earth Day 2023. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Earth Day Live. My name is Michael Carpedian, and I am the Great Global Cleanup Coordinator for EarthDay.org. Thank you so much for coming to join this Earth Day Live. Today is actually our first Earth Day Live as we prepare and get ready for this year's Earth Day. And today we are going to talk about how to create a waste-free world. Now, oftentimes it seems that we are drowning in a sea of plastic. But luckily today I have 4 amazing panelists for you, and we are going to discuss solutions, upstream and downstream solutions. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. We're going to have you guys introduce yourselves. Danielle, let's start with you. You were Miss Earth USA 2023. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today, and it's such an honor. Thank you for asking. Like you said, I am Miss Earth USA, and when I'm not fulfilling my title holder responsibilities, I'm a makeup artist. I do hair, makeup, spray tans, primarily in the pageant world. And so with my passion for the environment and the beauty industry, I've been able to combine the two, and I'm an ambassador with Wands for Wildlife. We recycle mascara wands and we're able to reuse them to provide medical aid to wildlife animals in need. And I love animals. I have a big heart for them. I'm also a Meatless Monday ambassador. And then this year I'm looking forward to starting my own We Clean Trails chapter here in Kentucky. I'm based out of Louisville, and so I'm looking forward to bringing the Bluegrass State together to help us become more green.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And Marilyn, we're going to jump it over to you. You are the founder of AriCare. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Michael, for inviting me. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of AriCare. We are a clean tech startup. We actually really started thinking how to create a vast scale sort of impact, or really reduce the environmental impact of cleaning products and the skincare, especially the personal hygiene industry. And we started to create a new technology for basically creating all those products as organic powder-based formulas, and not add the water in the production and the transport phase. So usually what happens is that actually those products have 90 to 95% water in, packed in single-use plastic. So we want to eliminate all that. So I've been working with this, and also I was the head of communication and marketing for Let's Do It World, which was the coordinator of in our cleanup event, the World Cleanup Day.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Steve, co-founder of National Cleanup Day and Clean Trails. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Michael. I have been an avid outdoor person for a long time. I've done a lot of hiking and have a little picture of the mountains behind me here that didn't come out very well today. But in any case, I co-founded Clean Trails, National Cleanup Day, and Bill, who's the other co-founder of the organization, is on the board of directors for World Cleanup Day. Let's Do It World.
Awesome. Thank you. David, you were the Senior Vice President of Impact and Analysis at Keep America Beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work you do?
Sure. So Keep America Beautiful, we're the nation's largest community improvement organization. We have over 700 affiliates around the country, and actually a number of international affiliates too. And our network of affiliates work to make their communities clean, green, and beautiful places to live. And our mission is to inspire and educate everyone to take action in their community every day. And that our work is really rooted, and our founding in 1953 was really rooted around litter prevention. And so in my work, I get to track all the work that our affiliates are doing around the country, mobilizing millions of volunteers, cleaning up in the past decade billions of pounds of litter to make communities and the natural environment a cleaner and a safer place for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm excited to have such a diverse group of panelists here with amazing backgrounds. And that's kind of really what we need to tackle these problems, is people from all different industries and all different backgrounds to join together in this fight. David, I'm going to throw it over to you because I do have a question. I know that you led the Keep America Beautiful 2020 National Litter Study, and I saw that you came out with around 50 billion pieces of litter in the United States, and that comes out to, I think, 2,000 pieces of litter per mile. Now, 3 years later, do you think that number has gone up or gone down? How do you think we are handling that situation?
Yeah, we've seen real variation from community to community, Michael. In certain places, especially during the height of the pandemic, people were home and were out in their communities, really doing a lot to take care of their communities. But other places, we saw community traffic declined, and the ability to sort of take care of your community has also declined. What we've seen as we've sort of emerged from the worst of the pandemic is probably an uptick in litter in lots of places, and you know, that is in and of itself a bad thing, but it's really brought people a heightened awareness towards litter. And you know, what we know from our work is the work to prevent litter is ongoing, and so if we can take this moment and really convert people's attention into action, that's something that benefits the earth as a whole and all of the communities that we live in.
Wow, I think that's a really great point. That's interesting that you say that there's an uptake in the amount of litter being produced. Steve, what do you think about that?
I agree. There's a lot of places that have seen more litter. The good news, though, is that there's places that have had concentrated efforts. Usually it involves having some sort of infrastructure, like what Keep America Beautiful provides to organizations and to communities to improve. And litter begets more litter. So what happens is that if you are in an area that has a lot of litter, people tend to litter more. And on the other hand, if people see a clean and beautiful environment, they actually will litter less. An example of something like that in my area is that I decided that there was a on-ramp to the highway that I would take care of. It's a safe on-ramp. And I would go up to the place where you couldn't go any further without being on the restricted area. And I decided to clean up that on-ramp. And I did a concentrated thing for about 3 months. And suddenly there's some other people that are helping clean up. They've seen the results, and that area has seen long-term improvements. That's just a personal example. But I know that what David is saying is that, there's hope here, and if everybody picks up some litter, we'll have a much better environment.
Awesome. And I am going to swing it back to you in a little bit to talk more about behavior change, because I know that is something you've discussed and advocated for a lot in the past. But first, Danielle, I see your crown right next to you. Can you tell me what is it like to be able to represent the United States in a pageant like Miss Earth?
It's truly a dream come true. My biggest passions in this life have always been focused through the environment and what we can do to make a difference. I grew up on a farm, so I've learned firsthand how we take care of the earth, and the earth in return takes care of us. And so being able to have a national platform to inspire other people to make a difference, and now even have the opportunity to go and potentially have the platform to make an international difference, really goes to show, for one, when you believe in yourself and go after your dreams, wild and crazy things can happen, but also that anybody can do this. I'm a small town farm girl, grew up on a farm, girl that went after it and who believed in it, but who wanted to make a difference and who took that step to do it. And that's what we just need the entire world to see, is that when we come together to make a difference, that's where we'll see the major impact. And it doesn't have to be you go out and you spend an entire day outside each and every week cleaning up. It's that you see that one piece of trash and you pick it up, and you grab a friend and you inspire them to do the same. And it's coming together to make a difference. And so being able to have this platform is one of my goals, is showing people just how simple it can be and how impactful it can be when we all come together.
Awesome. And representing the United States, do you see the United States changing in the culture around plastic pollution?
That's my goal. I surely hope we can continue to see it. I've noticed a lot of companies are putting forth more sustainable practices, especially in the fashion industry. They're looking for ways that they can, like I see a sunglass company, for instance, they make their sunglasses now out of castor beans instead of using plastic products. And it's, again, just those little changes like that that are going to be so substantial to changing our entire environment. And I hope we can continue to see the United States make a change like that, and each and every company can inspire another company to follow in the footsteps to do the same thing.
Awesome. And what a perfect segue to bring it over to Marilyn. Talking about entrepreneurship, what do you think the role entrepreneurs have in fighting plastic pollution?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it's a huge role, because really, we as startups, as companies, we are the producers of the things that people use, right? And I truly don't think it's just entrepreneurs. It really is like what everyone has been saying. It needs to be a cooperation between governments, consumers, people and businesses. And this is how we can make the real shift. But it's so much about not giving that responsibility away. We're so often pointing fingers and saying oh, but the government should do something about it, or the consumer should want different things and so on. But we're no, we actually all need to do something here. And it's so exciting, because I'm part of the Estonian kind of startup ecosystem here, and really seeing a lot of European startup ecosystem, and also the US. Actually, the founders of ARI are actually in the US right now, so they're kind of working on that part of the world, and seeing how climate tech and clean tech and the whole kind of sustainability businesses, they're really, really thriving, and how much investment and money is actually being poured into that particular segment and sectors. It's really creating that huge sense of hope that we can do something about it. And yeah, it's really exciting times for us.
It's awesome. And Steve, I have a question for you, because I know your background isn't necessarily in running a nonprofit. I know you worked in the corporate world a little bit. We've spoken a little bit about entrepreneurs and their role and how key it is. What do you think, as we talk about how these larger companies are often the culprits for creating all this plastic waste, where do you think the line is to bring in corporations into making change? And what do you think about that?
Right. So I totally agree with Marilyn about the need to work together and to cooperate between business, government, and nonprofits. And as somebody who has started up his own successful business and sold it, as well as working for a Fortune 100 company, I can tell you that.
Steve, I think your audio went out.
Did that help?
you're back in.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, we need to work together to make this work. And having worked for a large company and had my own business, it is something that every business person out there has an obligation to work together on solving the problems, along with the government, with nonprofits, and all the people that want to buy the products that keep the ocean from being full of plastic.
Awesome. David, speaking of that, where do you think the role Keep America Beautiful is playing in this? I know the global, the Great American Cleanup is beginning, I think this weekend, actually. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Great American Cleanup is America's Great Spring Cleanup. We are, oh, I know I'm supposed to know this. I think we're celebrating the 25th anniversary, perhaps, of the Great American Cleanup. And that is when our affiliates around the country and even folks who don't have an affiliate where they're located go out and get active in their community to clean up. And cleanup can look like the things that we're talking about today, about getting litter off the ground, and that's really important. But it can also be about creating beautiful spaces, because what we know, and Steve mentioned this a little bit, litter begets litter, and on the converse, on a positive side, clean begets clean. And people are much less likely to litter in a space, especially a public space, that is clean and taken care of. So this combination of cleaning up and doing other things like planting and greening really help. So what you're going to see this year is hundreds of thousands of volunteers out collecting millions of pounds of litter and debris. Depending on where you are in the States, first off, spring comes at different times. In Florida, you all are well off mid-spring right now, perhaps even late spring, whereas up here in New England, it's only just cracking spring. But what's pretty common in most places is there's an accumulation of litter from the winter. From us, it's after the snow melt. Perhaps if you're in a warmer place, it's downstream flows of litter from other places in the watershed. So there's a lot of accumulated mess, frankly, trash that we can take care of. And by we're talking about plastic here, and what hopefully everybody knows is plastic doesn't biodegrade. So the only way that we get it out of the environment is by picking it up, taking care of it in the first place. But when it becomes litter, unmanaged waste, that opportunity has been lost. So it's up to us to get it out of the natural environment. So the Great American Cleanup is a great kickoff to really taking care of our communities and the natural environment. And I want to say we're thrilled to be part of the great global cleanup too, and partner with you guys to encourage folks to do this sort of work wherever you are around the world, because it's incredibly important. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity here later to talk about all the positive impacts that litter cleanups can have for litter prevention, because people sometimes rightly get frustrated that they have to pick litter up, but what they don't recognize is by picking it up, they're helping prevent the next round of litter, and we can go into some more detail later.
And I agree with you, David. Actually, we're going to jump into that conversation right now, because I think it's important to talk about cleanups, which are really a downstream solution. Steve, you and I have had lengthy conversations about cleanups. Obviously, this is the bulk of our work.
Yes, exactly.
But something you always say is that if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. That is a quote that I've stolen from you, and I say it to everyone whenever they complain about doing cleanup. So where did that come from, and what do you think about that?
That actually came from Bill Willoughby, the other co-founder of Clean Trails and National Cleanup Day. And the way that we actually started doing the cleanup organization was because we'd be out hiking. We would be having fun talking about things and solving all the problems of the world. And Bill came up with the idea of saying, people, hey, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Because helping out the environment, helping out your local trail or your park, your beach, your mountain, your ski area, whatever it might be, actually leads to a lot of happiness internally. And I think a lot of people find, keeping the outdoors clean is an easy way to, help out. I do want to mention one other thing too, is that the cleanups for Earth Month have actually just started most recently, and they continue to go on through into the first week or so of May, because of places that David mentioned, like Alaska, where the spring may not come until May.
Great. And David, I think we have a question for you from Gail Gordon. He asks, and I'm going to put it on the screen here. Are the plastics picked up, recycled where possible? And I think he's referring to the Great American Cleanup. And I know that's a tough question because we're kind of really high up, or we're not on the ground, I should say, in those cleanups. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it really varies from place to place. It's, in part, it speaks to something that I think it was Marilyn maybe who said, the importance of partnership between local governments and businesses and nonprofits. So, in the United States, and I don't know where Gail is, in the United States, the recycling system is, varies greatly from place to place. So the ability to recycle, which in certain places we take for granted, doesn't exist everywhere. So I think where recycling is possible and where groups have the collaboration of local governments and recycling industries and the resources to be able to recycle those things and source separate from the cleanup, yeah, we do see our folks recycling. But in other places, and sometimes in some of these cleanups, it's a really significant amount. I mean, we're talking tens of, in some places it can be over 10,000 pounds, just from a single cleanup. That gets too difficult to be able to recycle at that level of mass.
Understood on that. And Danielle, I hear that you have a cleanup actually happening tonight. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, tonight here in Louisville, we have a cleanup with our local parks and recs, and we're all meeting up downtown. And outside of that, I'm actually starting my own We Clean Trails chapter here in Kentucky, and going to travel throughout Kentucky so we can bring all of our community members together to help make a difference. We have a lot of local parks here. We even have a national park here. And one thing that we constantly see in Kentucky is the littered highways, the littered trailways. And so being able to bring everyone together to help make a difference is something I'm so passionate about. And outside of that, where was I? Just about to go somewhere. I had a little squirrel brain moment. But with the We Clean Trails, this is something that was started with a former Miss Earth USA. So I'm really proud to be able to carry on her legacy and to help make a difference. And one thing that I have seen through the cleanups that I've just personally hosted throughout Kentucky is that people find it to be fun. I did one and we had a group of young kids with us, and at first they weren't really looking forward to it. They're young, and I totally understand. And at the end of the day, they're like, this honestly was so much fun. I got to spend time with my friends. We got to spend time outside in the sun. We had a great day together. And I think that's where we're going to continue, teaching the younger generation and getting them involved is where we're going to continue to see the change grow for generations to come.
Yeah, I agree. At first glance, cleanups don't sound fun, but they really are, because it's a whole community getting together. It's picking up trash, but you are making, whatever the piece of land you're picking up trash on better at the end of the day. And there's also so many different ways to do it. We have a partner out in Hawaii who's actually doing a huge dive event where they go out into the bay and go pick up trash that's just happened to be littered, in the ocean, which is awesome, and it's fun. It's cool.
Well, I think we need to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. Marilyn, you worked with Let's Do It World, the World Cleanup Day for a while. Can you tell us about the volunteers that you've worked with in that time?
Yeah, well, because I was the global head of communication. So during the World Cleanup Day in September last year, I was also not on the ground cleaning up because I was organizing the whole Golan Media Center with 50 volunteers who were for almost 24 hours putting up all the social media content. And we also have a great moderator who always flies in from Rome. I'm sure many of you know, Colm. So he was also on the lives on Facebook all this time. And this was really my first time doing the world cleanup, and it was so much fun seeing all those different people all over the world actually just being so enthusiastic and so positive. And I really just couldn't believe how much positivity and joy there was, and people were singing and dancing, and it was just such a positive surprise for me how inspiring it was. And I think it was very much like this joy and beauty and enthusiasm and positivity what really made a difference on that day. And to be honest, like I didn't even know how I managed, because truly I was up for 24 hours working around the clock making this event happen. And it was just, I think it was really like this positivity was just carrying me along until the next day. Then I truly felt it and I crashed. But during this day it was incredible. So yeah, I've definitely experienced that.
That's awesome. I think when it comes to talking about climate change or plastic pollution, there's a lot of negativity, and rightfully so. A lot of the stuff, all challenges we're facing are challenging and scary. But it's great to hear that doing cleanups and creating some kind of change in your community that actually does lead to solutions can be something fun and can get people engaged. A lot of times we hear all this negative messaging, and it at least me personally, it turns me off from wanting to do something because there's a lot of despair there. But I think cleanups are an opportunity to really step up and make a change. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the solutions we can create for plastic pollution. David, do you think cleanups are the end all be all solution, or what do you think is the solution for the plastic pollution that we are facing?
No, cleanups definitely aren't the end all be all, and unfortunately, there is no end all be all. It's what we need to do is to take a variety of actions to address the litter problem in our waste systems. So, that includes people thoughtfully purchasing products that are right for them and right for the time and the space. It's important about folks having a way to dispose of those products in a way that is appropriate and ideally increasingly circular, because one of the things that we notice when you go out and you do cleanups, or at least when I go out and I do cleanups, that the great majority of the material that we're picking up off the ground has can be turned into something else. Most of the products that we're using these days do have a circular life. We just don't always have the systems in place to enable that. So education, having the right points of disposal for people so that they can dispose of their products responsibly. So that in many ways looks like deposit. It can be deposit systems, but it can also be just having the right recycling infrastructure in place. It also means servicing all of this, the infrastructure and our communities. Just having the right bins in place doesn't mean anything if nobody is servicing them. An overflowing bin, actually can encourage littering. So, cleanups are one part, along with education and infrastructure, and mobilizing communities to be more aware about what needs to happen here.
Awesome. Steve, we touched a little bit earlier on behavior change. What part do you think that plays in the overall theme of plastic pollution?
I think it's actually the most important part because people are able to see what others are doing. There's a study that actually just came out, I believe, yesterday about how behavior change is based upon what you see other people doing. So if you see somebody else picking up trash, you're more likely to pick up trash. And that's actually tends to be as effective as all the other types of communication that can be done. So it's really important to have a starting point, and the starting point to a lot of environmental activities is actually doing cleanups.
Great. Marilyn, as an entrepreneur for a company that's really focusing on trying to solve these issues, where do you see the top-down solutions are?
Well, I think, as everyone said, we need to make things circular, first of all, but also really, really think which materials we are using. And I really want to also pick up on something that everyone has said, like if it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. I would also say when we design products, if it's not beautiful, we're doing it wrong, because people don't want to buy ugly products. They don't want to make those alternative choices when they need to swap for something that is absolutely not working for them, that is not actually beautiful or easy to use, and so on. So what is our real aim and goal as entrepreneurs is designing things that are actually more beautiful and more easy to use than the products they used before. And also we really need to think about like the whole customer behavior and the customer journey, like how can we make it very easy for them to purchase them? So it's the whole kind of science around this, like how can we actually create those behavioral changes that really support this change. And for example, with Ari, like when we were talking about materials, we were thinking for such a long time which materials to use, and we created this like soap dispenser because we started during the COVID times where hand wash, the liquid soaps and everything, it was like so widely used, it was insane. And hand wash was then the first formula we created as an organic powder-based formula. So when people would buy the product, they wouldn't buy the product with the water in it, but they would just buy the powder and then add the water at home. And we really didn't want to create another plastic bottle, although the plastic bottle would have been kind of reusable and refillable. So what we did is we created an aluminum bottle, because the aluminum is the only material which is so widely recycled. And it's also the only material which is still in use. So 75% aluminum ever produced in the world is still in use. And, I'm sure many of us know the statistics with plastic. It's a very, very, very small percentages which can and will be recycled and reused, because the plastic as a material is just not recyclable and reusable. You need to put the virgin material in. Whereas with aluminium, for example, and also glass is better, you can actually use and reuse that product over and over again, or that particular material. So yeah, I think it's really important to kind of really start thinking from the very beginning how we're designing things, how we're making people to use them, etc.
And do you see that change happening? Because we've talked a lot about it happening, small on a smaller scale with entrepreneurs, but these larger companies, do you see them also creating that change?
Yeah, I can really see it happening, but obviously it's more difficult for them because often they have the infrastructure in place, and the thinking at times can be a bit more traditional. Like if they make a lot of money anyway, they kind of think like, hey, like why change? And they're only changed by the pushing from the legislation. Whereas the new companies like startups who come in, we just completely think in a different way because we already come into the world, which is like, seeing all those problems. And I wouldn't think that any startup would kind of come in and start creating this like traditionally minded company or traditional manufacturing processes. We all come in and we start thinking like, okay, how can we go to the root and really change things completely? And I can really see it happening. And I can really also see that then the corporations and bigger companies are kind of starting to look what the startups are doing and actually getting more inspired. And actually a lot of startups are being acquired by the bigger corporations because they want the sustainability, they want the innovation, but they don't have it in-house. They don't have a know-how. They don't have this like inspiration and kind of enthusiasm for this. However, they do have a cash more often than not. So what they do is they often buy the startups to get that sustainable sort of action going in their business.
That is really interesting. And speaking, because you brought up the legislative piece of it, and David, I'm curious because you did do this study in 2020. Were you able to leverage that for any changes other than focusing on cleanups?
Well, in our role, what we do is we collect the information and we mobilize people and we put it out there into the communities, and people use that as is appropriate in their own communities. I mean, here at Keep America Beautiful, we have a stated policy on what producer responsibility looks like in that space, but we know. Here in the U.S., there is a variety of different approaches and attitudes towards the government's role in this space. So what we do know is our data have been used by a lot of people to explore what their solutions should look like in their communities.
Awesome. Thank you. Danielle, what David just said kind of brought a question to me for you. Growing up in Kentucky, what is the attitude towards plastic pollution and climate change?
Plastic pollution, we do see polluted highways. We have an adopt the highway policy here. Organizations can come through and adopt a portion of the highway segment to come and clean up and try to help keep it beautiful. I know our legislators do want to see a change here, but we are also a very coal-driven state. So when it comes to actions against or for and a positive movement towards making a difference for climate change can kind of be two separate ends of the spectrum, butting heads together, because coal is one of our major natural resources. It provides a lot of jobs here, and it's a big part of our history. So it is hard to fight against. But I know here in Louisville, we are focused on making the differences where we can. So you'll see like electric buses looking to make a difference. Our Parks and Rec tonight is hosting this cleanup. And we do have legislators that are looking to make a difference, but to also not take away the jobs from communities that really rely on them, because I know a lot of our areas that do mine in the coals are lower income areas. So trying to also find new resources for them and provide new opportunities for them as we continue to grow. It's kind of where the battle is, but I'm really eager to see what Kentucky does to change. And I'm proud to see that they're open to making a change.
Thank you for that insight. I'm curious because it is really interesting finding that balance between making sure all members of the community are taken care of when these sustainable solutions are brought in, which is interesting based on what you said, Marilyn, about how these larger corporations are buying these startups to add that innovation in there. Steve, coming from that world, do you think do you see a lot of that change happening within the United States?
I do see a lot of change happening in the United States. I think that there's a significant number of people that want to do things that are better for the environment. They're coming back to an awareness that started with the beginning days of the environmental movement. And I'll just call 1970 for Earth Day the beginning of that. I know there's a lot of history before that, of course, but that was one of the first mass movements. And I think what we're seeing here in the last few years is a big change, that people are actually looking at it and saying it's important to engage in the environment, in positive ways, to make changes in what they're doing personally. And then the companies are following suit, because the companies are really smart. They have people that want to make money. They have people that want to buy companies that have those products and those ideas and those connections to their consumers, so that they're able to then continue on with what they've done in the past.
Awesome. And, continue this conversation about companies. Marilyn, we got a question for you in the chat. Are the RE Care products available for individual purchase? I'll let you take this one.
Yes and no is the answer actually here, because we did start creating this consumer product, which we thought we're going to bring into retail. However, what we realized, so this is like good news, bad news kind of thing. We realized that actually our strength with RE Care is really the manufacturing technology. So we did a pivot from B2C market, so the consumer market, and kind of brand building with that particular product, into creating a white label solution for other brands and also the hospitality sector. Because as we all know, the hotels are using masses of that stuff. So we're really trying to change that and especially kind of push the hotels to move away from those little plastic mini toiletries into something a little bit more sustainable. Because also, like, I've been talking with so many hoteliers, and they're saying themselves that this is just crazy when they see the amount of plastic what is thrown away when they still use the mini toiletries. So the answer here was that we are selling still in Estonia only, though, as we're completely only going for large customers, large hotels, and large kind of B2B clients from now on.
That's interesting. I like that perspective of going for that, because that is the, that is the most sustainable option. So I love that. Danielle, I'm gonna throw it back to you. Outside of doing cleanups, how are you using your platform to create change for plastic pollution?
Yeah, actually, as a makeup artist, it's something we see a lot of in the industry. We have to use disposable mascara wands for sanitary purposes. And I can kind of show you here. And this is something anybody who loves makeup is going to wear. They've got probably a mascara in their kit. The tubing is typically made out of plastic. So I hope to see the beauty industry start to revolutionize and look for newer opportunities. But when you're done with it, instead of just discarding it, we're able to, with my Wands for Wildlife ambassadorship, I'm able to take them in. I host donation drives. I save up all the disposable wands that I would use on my clients, and I'm able to encourage other makeup artists when I'm out at a pageant doing hair and makeup, and there's a full team there. I can give them all donation boxes as well, so they can hold on to it, and I can take them and we clean them and we sanitize them, and then I'm able to send them into Wands for Wildlife, or even go and hand them in directly to a wildlife center. I actually have a visit tomorrow to a wildlife center to take them a nice big box of wands that have been cleaned and sanitized for them. And this is just one way that we can continue to reuse them. The spoolie on the wands is actually really helpful to go in and maybe get like a bot fly out of a wound, or clean fly larvae off of fur coats. They can get the fly larvae that are maybe stuck to shelling of an animal. There's so many different ways that they can provide medical aid. And for some animals, it can be a life or death difference for them just by having something so simple like a mascara wand. So this is two big passion areas of mine. I'm able to come together and make a difference. And I think it's really eye-opening too to share with other people, because it's something so simple like mascara, something that we see a lot of women and men, or men who want to wear makeup too, the beauty lovers, wear day in and day out. And who would have thought it could be life-changing or life-saving for a wildlife animal in need?
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks, gladly.
Yeah, and in terms of working with wildlife, can you explain a little bit more about what you do for that organization?
My main focus with what I get to do with them is just turning in the wands and encouraging other beauty lovers to do the same with their makeup products. And so with Wands for Wildlife, essentially we can only take the physical wand tubing. We can't take the product packaging tubing, but we do have a company we partner with, Pack Collective, that we're able to send that to so that they can properly discard or look for ways to recycle. And so my end is teaching everybody to send it in, to get them clean, sanitized, or even take them to a local wildlife animal rescue center and inspire them to begin to use them. We have little informational packets that we can take to teach them different ways, and even the different wands on them. Some are rubber tips, some are more of a, I don't want to call it a pipe cleaner. It's more like a wool similar tip, like you would clean a straw, like a reusable straw. And so the different ones provide different opportunities for what they can do to help the animals. And I would love to get to take my hand at it. I would love to be able to be hands-on. I know that's not in my background, but I'm hoping in one of my many wildlife visits, wildlife center visits I make this year, maybe I can get them to kind of train me so that I can provide some sort of aid and just get to experience it firsthand and make that difference.
Awesome. And one of the comments that just popped up, I want to bring it up again because I thought it was really interesting. Evan said, "Love that diverting plastic waste not only keeps pollution from harming wildlife, but can also be used to help save them too." I think that is really cool and really key to our conversation here as we kind of talk about, the long-term solutions to stopping plastic pollution is not just cleanups, but also finding new uses for these products. And like you brought up, Marilyn, how aluminum is one of the most is infinitely recyclable, as well as glass, and plastics just isn't one of those. Isn't one of those. So, David, kind of bringing it back to you, when you do your cleanups, what is one of the what material is it that you usually see when you clean up?
Yeah. So from the litter study, where, as you noted, we found at any given time in the United States, we estimate 50 billion pieces of litter are on the ground. In that, and about half of that is along waterways and half along roadways and in our communities. Of the most commonly litter product by far, and it's not even close, are cigarette butts. About 20% of all litter are cigarette butts. And it's interesting, when we're doing cleanups they're incredible. And I want to be the last person to chime in. They absolutely can be fun. And I love Bill's quote, "If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right." But they serve so many purposes. And one of them is educational. So folks, because cigarette butts are small, people don't recognize the prevalence of cigarette butts. So it's an opportunity there to teach people, about the prevalence of cigarette butts, because if you don't point them out, they often don't pick them up. Also to educate them that, at the heart of a cigarette butt is plastic, that the filter is made out of plastic. And if we don't pick those up, that plastic is going into the natural environment, and it easily gets swept away, down into storm drains and into our waterways, and degrades easily into microplastics from that place. So really what we are using that opportunity to teach people about what's happening in the waste stream, and the things that they can do. I think people are often surprised. Not surprisingly, is about 40% of the litter that's out there are from products that are made out of plastic. I don't think anybody's surprised that litter is the most prevalent material out there. What they're often surprised at, it can regularly be things that they're not thinking about. We see lots of plastic films, for instance. Those can be candy wrappers or other wrappers like that. If you buy things in bulk, they're often wrapped in plastic, and that often gets out into the environment. So that's a thing that it's an educational moment for folks. Characterizing the litter, having people see what's in the waste stream and how much of it is recyclable is really important. So that leveraging a cleanup for an educational moment is really important. Having fun is great. Getting the litter off of the ground is wonderful, but it's a missed opportunity if we're not teaching people along the way about what's out there, and how we can prevent it from getting in the litter stream, and when it is in the waste stream, how we can take advantage to repurpose it for other uses.
Yeah, I think that piece about education is really interesting. I know just personally, before I started doing cleanups, I had no idea the amount of trash that is really out there. And now that I've started, everywhere I go, there is there's litter. I see it everywhere, and that's something that, you know, growing up, you just get into the habit of ignoring. So I think, you know, in terms of talking about downstream solutions, bringing people on to do cleanups, like we talked about, is not only fun, but it's also a way to get people to really see the impact of the waste that is in our environment. Steve, David was talking a little bit about cigarette butts. I know you had a while ago an interesting idea on how to kind of solve that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your cigarette butt solution?
Okay, so it was a crazy idea.
As usual.
Crazy idea. And yes, it was actually to have the filter tip color be orange. And so it would indicate that cigarette butts are something that you are able to see see easier in the environment and might make people litter less. Don't really know if that would ever work. Probably not. I think the white and tan camel color cigarette butts are probably here to stay. The colors are here to stay. But you know, it's kind of an interesting digression on it, and I learned a heck of a lot about cigarette butts and color perception in animals. I did want to mention one other thing too. This is off the subject a little bit, but I had seen a audience comment about the International Day of Zero Waste, and so just wanted to do a plug for that. That's the United Nations official day now. This is the first one, and there's the comment. This is the first one, March 30th of every year.
Thanks for that plug, Steve.
You're welcome.
We are gonna begin winding down now. So if anyone in the audience has any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat. And yes, David, while you were talking, this question came up. There's no recycling in my area anymore. Is there any way we could recycle? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I have several insights, and Michael, I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. I think first, know that you have a voice, and you know, talking to your public officials matters. That's easy for me to say from where I'm sitting. I have no idea what the environment is like where you live, but you know, public officials do generally want to do things that their residents are requesting. So talking about that, understanding they're in a tough place. A lot of local officials, the costs of recycling are outweighing the benefits, but there are solutions, in particular in rural areas where recycling is a challenge in terms of cost. We have in our network of affiliates around the country, we have folks working in places to really try to extend recycling into more rural communities so people have the option, and we have some really great success stories there. If that doesn't work, I encourage you to look. There are you know, some solutions out there. One organization, TerraCycle, has a bag system that you can sign up for, where you can recycle at least some of the waste that you're not able to recycle in your community. So you may want to check that out. But don't you know, don't underestimate the power of some thoughtful citizens and residents coming together and requesting something, because generally speaking, you know, local officials are trying to do their best to manage this issue. They just don't always know that there are solutions out there, that this can be cost effective, and something that can be made available to everybody within reason.
Yeah, we also have this other comment from Allison. I've noticed that discarded face masks are now so prevalent along sidewalks, parking lots, etc. Something that no one wants to touch for a fear of contagion. That is something that has really, ever since the pandemic, has been polluting everything. David, tell us a little bit more about that. Do you have any stats on that from your litter study? And what do you think about the face masks?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So of those 50 billion pieces of litter on the ground, we estimated 207 million of those pieces were were PPE. Now, whether that's a lot or a little to you, that's, I'll let everybody else judge that. It's about the same, roughly the same number as the number of littered plastic straws out there. So that's a reference point. PPE really gave us this incredible natural experiment too, that allowed us to show what happens to litter when it doesn't get picked up. And what we found, especially for the littered PPE gloves that everybody was using, I know slightly different than the masks, but bear with me. We found many, many more of them as a percentage along waterways than we did along roadways. And that's because if they don't get picked up, they wash away very, very easily. And it's a way to tell people that if we don't take care of these products, they eventually end up in our waterways. And so it's the importance of, and this was in your opening video, from streets to streams, the importance of taking care of these materials at the source. So teaching people that littering is wrong, cleaning it up when it happens, having local governments play a role in making sure the infrastructure is in place and being serviced so people can dispose of their products properly, and then having concerned citizens taking part to get this off the street. So I really appreciate the question from Allison. Yes, we did see lots and lots of PPE masks and gloves, and it told us an awful lot about litter that goes well beyond the impact of PPE masks and gloves.
Yeah, thank you for that insight, David. Now, Danielle, I know you have a solution for the fear of contagion when these masks unfortunately do get littered.
I mean, you really have to keep yourself safe when you're out there. You never know what you might come across. So for me, when I go out, I have a garbage grabber. I'm going to try to show in the camera angle here. And it's nice and big. It'll hold your bag for you. It has two pieces. Your bag just quite literally clips in, so you can help hold everything away from your body. And then to make sure that when you're picking everything up, you're nice and sanitary, of course, I recommend to wear gloves, but then I also have the trash reacher for it. So from a distance, you're able to grab whatever you need. And even beyond masks and the contagion there, I know needles are also a risk, and each state jurisdiction is a little bit different. I know here in Kentucky, we recommend if you find a needle outside to just call your local authorities and have them come and pick it up. If you're with a group, like for me with my We Clean Trails chapter, I'll have an actual hazard shark box. So if anybody out there cleaning with me was to find one, I'm able to come by and safely and securely pick it up to make sure that nobody could get harmed by it. But your safety when you clean up is always first and foremost important. So that's why having gloves, something like a garbage grabber and a trash reacher is so important.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we did get a question from Shalani Singh. And I work for Maricopa County Community Colleges in Arizona. Is there a way to collaborate and involve our students? Yes, absolutely. Well, in terms of joining the Great Global Cleanup, I'm gonna do a little plug for our campaign. If you go to earthday.org/cleanup, you will be able to see our global cleanup map, and on there, you will find cleanups that are happening in your area. If not, we also have a toolkit there available so that you can create your own cleanups. Now, we are gonna do one last question. I have it for each of you as we kind of come to a close here. So all of us have a lot of experience. Oh, we have one more question. How about practicing zero garbage at home, if not possible for office and business? Steve, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I can tell you that since I've started on this journey of doing cleanups, I've actually learned a lot about, changing habits on what I do. And I've significantly reduced the amount of plastics and single-use items that I use. And it actually, I think, saves money. And I like the products better.
That's true. Oftentimes, when you switch those products, like if you go to RA Care, your products are going to be a lot higher quality and probably better for you. So I have one last question for all of you as we all do cleanups and we get ready for this April. My question for you is, what is the weirdest / most interesting thing that you have found while doing a cleanup? Steve, let's start with you.
Boy, I don't know. That's a tough one because I've seen literally everything. If somebody can throw it away, I will tell you one that I saw that I thought was kind of funny. Bill and I were taking a hike one day. It was a hot day, and we came across the sole of a shoe, and then we came across another sole of the other shoe, and then up above that we came across another sole from a different shoe. So we had 4 soles of shoes in a quarter mile. It was just strange.
That is weird. Marilyn, what about you?
Well, actually, just now when you asked this question, this really funny situation came to my mind, which during the World Cleanup Day, somebody sent a picture. I can't remember if it was sent privately or what was it sent publicly, but it was from this little town, like little resort town in the western coast of Estonia, really beautiful place. And they sent a picture of this little like piece of rubber band. And it said that we went out to do the World Cleanup Day with about 1,000 people, and this is what we found. And it was really funny because it was like, right, what you said before when we had this conversation as well, Michael, that Estonia is so clean. And it's true, Estonia is really, really clean. So it was really funny that, okay, are we really that clean that 1,000 people go out in a resort town and they only find like a little piece of rubber band? So I think it was kind of a joke, unfortunately. But at this moment, it was really, really funny. Like, I really hope that one day, even if it was a joke, that one day this will be the truth.
I hope so too. Danielle, what about you?
We were cleaning alongside the Ohio River, and we oddly found one boot. We never found the other boot, but we found one. And it leaves a lot of questions. Did somebody just walk off without the other? Did it maybe go in the water? I don't know, but just one boot, just one.
That's interesting. It seems shoes are a theme of finding weird things on cleanups. All right, David, the analyst who has seen it all, tell us what's the weirdest thing you found while doing a cleanup?
Right, and that's a problem, is because I see so much of it. It's hard to pick. My favorite was from a couple of years ago when we were running one of our trash dashes, which is a plogging event that combines a cleanup with a 5K road race, where we encourage people to walk or run or whatever, but also clean up along the way. And seeing a couple of runners crossing the finish line with a massive rug that they had found on the side of the road. And I think this ultimately speaks to what we have all talked about here today, which is engaging people, having fun, being committed to doing the work. And, that showed it all. These people having fun, big smiles on their face, but obviously putting in the work to get this thing across the finish line. So that's one of my favorite stories of weird things found.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me here today as we discuss this and keep this conversation going about how we can create a waste-free world. For everyone watching, you can join the Great Global Cleanup if you go to earthday.org/cleanup. Join us this April for to create a waste-free world. And if you can come support the Great Global Cleanup if you scan this QR code right here. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream, and thank you so much to my panelists for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Such a pleasure.